From Nikola Jokic cracking the MVP race 2 times in the NBA to Joel Embiid's epic rise up the ranks this season. Who's the best modern-day big man? Now, there's a case to be made for both players. Nikola Jokic's statistical dominance of the league has been second to a few names in NBA history. Joel Embiid, on the other hand, has been by far the most dominant player in the NBA.
Embiid spins, forces, and finishes.
Running the show at will, and no one else coming close. They're very different from one another, but their impact on the game is as similar as it gets. In a way, it reminds fans of the 90s when tall centers were the talk of the town. Since then, there's been a shortage of dominant big men leading their teams. But both Embiid and Jokic look set to bring the glory days of big centers back to the NBA once again. The question that everyone has been asking, though, is who is the better of the two? It's only fair to see which player has the edge in each attribute and then see who comes out on top. And I'll start with the most important attribute, scoring. Nikola Jokic is an absolute madman when it comes to scoring. It may not be pretty, but it certainly is effective. He knows he can get the bucket every time he drives, and given his massive frame, most of the matchups over the course of a season tend to favor the Nuggets' big man. In the last 3 seasons, Jokic has averaged more than 24.5 points per game, peaking last season at 27.1 PPG.
Porter, give it to Jokic, swing around Şengün, and lays it in.
All this on a nearly 59% field goal percentage. But he doesn't rely on shooting alone, and it'd be fair to say that he's more of a pass-first guy. On the other hand, though, as impressive as Jokic may be, it's Embiid who has been the better scorer by a fair margin over the last 3 seasons in particular. The lowest PPG he averaged in the last 3 years was 28.5 2 seasons ago.
Embiid, here comes Harden, behind the back, Embiid!
But before going on to average over 30 for the first time in his career last season, and this season improved on it big time to average 33.1. His field goal percentage isn't impressive, I agree, but he's a shoot-first player, and almost all the offense of the Sixers flows through him. So undoubtedly, Embiid wins this round. But shooting isn't the only thing required from a big. You also need good defense.
By the Rockets, and here comes Harden with a nervous knockdown by Embiid.
Now, this is the one characteristic where Embiid has a huge edge over his counterpart. That's because, as effective as Jokic may be on the defensive end, Joel remains one of the best defenders in the entire league. Jokic's numbers are extremely impressive and rank well among the modern-era centers. But Embiid is coming up with an all-time impact when it comes to defense. He averages nearly 2 blocks per game along with 1 steal. And there's no doubt whatsoever that Embiid is also an exceptional one-on-one defender.
Wizards Bowl, Washington with Frazier on a drive into the lane. Go and B, get it out, Timmy.
Given his size, you'd think he'd fall for fakes, but he's surprisingly agile and athletic for his size, making him a monster in the paint and someone that you just don't want to take on. In comparison, Jokic struggles defensively against some of the quicker guards in the league, and can at times also fail to defend big centers like himself and Embiid consistently over the course of a game. Surprisingly, despite Embiid's athleticism and defense, it's Jokic who got more rebounds this season. But the Cameroonian native has the edge over the Serb in terms of career RPG. So that makes it 2-0 to Joel. The thing is though, in the modern era, you need your star player to contribute in every way, which is why the Joker's magnificent ability to pass puts him ahead of Embiid in this round. I'll also include basketball IQ in this very round because you need to have great vision. Some analysts have even claimed that Jokic might just be the best passer at the center position in NBA history. I don't think they're wrong, by the way. The center position was never tasked with finding the right passes. Instead, the centers were always at the end of those passes, dunking and scoring for fun. While Jokic can do that too, he remains a pass-first player who can make every pass in the book.
Jokic with the block shot, his second tonight.
It goes to show his superior basketball IQ compared to Embiid, who can also pass, but is definitely not as good as the Joker. In fact, Nikola nearly averaged in double figures for assists this season, missing out on the triple-double by a whisker. But ever since the 2018-19 season, Jokic has been averaging more than 7 assists per game.
He has not scored yet. Here he goes. Pass under to Juancho.
Which takes us to the next attribute, the overall impact of each player. This is really hard to say. It's insane to see the kind of impact that Embiid's had on the Sixers throughout his career, particularly this season. In fact, the underlying numbers suggest that this season he's had a greater impact on his team's success. Compare that to the crazily consistent season that Jokic has had.
I absolutely think he can do that. The way that he passes the ball, he'll always get rebounds and he can score.
And the fact that the Nuggets are first, along with the last two seasons where they'd have finished outside of the top 10 spots, if not for the Serbian superstar. You've got to give this round to Jokic. Also, because overall, Nikola tends to do a lot more than Embiid on the court. There's very little to separate the two in terms of impact, yes, but I feel Jokic has the end by the narrowest of margins. 2-2 so far, huh? The next point of comparison has to be the accolades and achievements they've racked up so far. And again, despite being a quantifiable attribute, it's hard to decide. That's mostly due to the fact that the last two MVP races between the two players were some of the closest ever.
The man, Embiid gets it, and then he throws the hook.
Jokic with the first block as Embiid.
That said, Jokic won both of them, so he gets the nod here. But then you look at their All-Star selections, their All-NBA selections, and the All-Defense team selections, and Embiid levels things up. However, the MVP award is a far bigger achievement than any of those accolades. And for that reason alone, Jokic just about edges the debate in terms of statistics. That said, there is one more accolade that probably even trumps the MVP award. Yep, a championship ring. So far in their careers, the two players have failed to win an NBA championship. But with both players in their prime and with 10 years still left in the tank, it seems that this race is also far from over just yet. Whoever gets their hands on more rings, or the first one for that matter, will be the better center up until that point. For now though, it's about who's been the better player this season.
Hard into Embiid, bank shot, missed it. More
defense right up in there.
Jokic drives, trying to, he put it in!
And Embiid's leading the MVP race at the end of the regular season puts him slightly ahead of Jokic. For many fans and analysts alike, it'd be extremely unfair if Embiid missed out on the MVP award for a third straight year.
What would it mean to you to finally win the MVP after 2 times as a runner-up?
I don't know. I think one thing I'll say is that, if people tell you that they don't care about it, they're lying.
Yeah.
That's the best award you can get. Yeah. As a basketball player, it means a lot.
But even when you put it that way, how can a person possibly say that the player who averaged nearly a triple-double while leading his team to the best record in the West doesn't deserve to be the MVP? It's absolutely outrageous. And if there were to be 2 MVPs this season, not many people would complain. But as far as the modern big man debate is concerned, it's impossible to pick and choose between the two. And with all the comparisons in front of you, I invite you to make this decision. That's all I have on Nikola Jokic versus Joel Embiid, and who is the better big man between the two superstars.
Embiid thought about a 3, now steps back, 3-pointer. Joel Embiid already looks sharp. Jokic has been relatively quiet. Draws the foul, right on cue.